Breaking Bad is the breakout show for AMC. It's not AMC's best, that's Mad Men. Yes, Mad Men's better than Breaking Bad, anyone who's out there. That's an instant downvote.
Breaking Bad is probably one of the biggest shows of the last...
I would say it's one of the biggest shows of all time now.
It's huge.
It is. I think that post-Sopranos, this biggest show, definitely the biggest show post-Sopranos.
Definitely one that had the most crossover effect.
Yep. It's also, what it's got that the Sopranos didn't have, and most shows before it, is an endless revenue supply. Yeah. Like, there's so many toys and so much, like, fake, like, drugs and... Yeah. I mean, it is more... There's so much more revenue that could come from this, potentially, than that, like, The Sopranos, that is going to be... It's much bigger, in a way. It didn't actually get anywhere near as well ratings as that. No. But it's much bigger in terms of how much revenue it's going to produce from ancillary markets.
Well, I think Breaking Bad got really big when the whole Netflix phenomenon happened.
Even with Netflix, it didn't come close to how big The Sopranos was in its peak. But that's only because of... That came out, like, early 2000s. Yeah. But that's really not really that important.
It's huge on, like, in terms of, like, legal downloading. Yeah. It's huge, it's massive as well. I saw a lot of people actually watched it. Yeah. And then the Netflix audience, people actually watched it on TV, which is quite, not a lot. But in terms of, like, the crossover effect, Breaking Bad is one of the biggest shows of all time. Yes. I'm more fond of it than you are.
I know, I love the first 3 seasons. I think the 4th one has an amazing last 7 episodes. Yeah. And then the first ones don't really work as well, because it's too slow in building it up. Yeah. I think they spend too much time. The 5th season, both parts, I think is when it got too far. I like a lot of episodes. I especially like a lot of episodes in the last 8. I think that it was a very poor decision to split it into 2 halves.
Spoilers, by the way, going ahead.
Yeah, so I think that the decision AMC made to split it in half into season part 1 and part 2 was wrong. I think there's a lot of filler going forwards. I think it would have been made more sense if, like, midway through episode 6, Hank had discovered that Walt was who he was.
I mean, certainly it ends on a very good cliffhanger.
Yes.
If you're going to watch it as part 1, part 2, that moment where, like I said, we're going into complete spoiler territory now. Yeah. So if you don't want to know what we're going to talk about, stop the video right now.
If you've not watched Breaking Bad to the end, stop it now.
Yeah, yeah. But that moment when Hank's on the toilet seat and he sees the poetry book and he puts the pieces together, so like, oh my god! And it's a great moment to end on. Yeah. Maybe for next week. Maybe six months a bit like...
Oh. Well, I see, my problem with it is they structured it, I think, around rise and fall. So Walt has his ultimate rise, followed by a season of falls. Yeah. But the problem is, I felt like season 4 had such an epic, like he beat his ultimate enemy, that season part 1 could not beat that. There is no enemy in part 1.
After Gus, it's hard to know where to go.
I also think...
You see, for me, like, sorry, this is a thing, in terms of, like, Walt's character, I always see Walt as being an incredibly pathetic character.
He is a pathetic character.
You know, he's got delusions of grandeur. He's like, oh, I'm an empire! And you look at it and you kind of like, well, it's not that great. No. But then, like, in the 5th season, they actually kind of give him an empire, and I don't think it really works. I think the character works better when he's more delusional about how he's got this huge... He's like, yeah, I'm a huge guy, I've got this huge empire. Yep. I am the one who knocks. And la la la.
Well, I think the show should have ended in season 4 with that perfect ending where it's the flower, because it's like that sums up his character perfectly, and it ends on ambiguity. Yeah. It's like, and he's beaten his ultimate enemy, but it is pathetic in the end. He did blow him up in a retirement home. It's like completely. It's what it was at its best. It was comedic and dramatic. That episode is perfect face-off. It ends on an ambiguous note. You don't really need to know what happens later. It's obvious that he's going to die from his cancer. I think they should have ended it just on a note of ambiguity.
I don't know. Personally, I would have wanted to have seen Walt ride it out to the bitter end. Personally, but that's just a preference for me in terms of the type of show Breaking Bad is. I would have been dissatisfied if that was the final episode. I maybe wanted a few more. Yeah, just a couple more, just to end it. My problem more comes from the fact that, even though the last episode of Series 5 is longer, I don't think they do enough. I was more interested in seeing the after effects. Yeah. You know, like in the first episode of the entire series, Walt says, you know, chemistry, everything links together. Every action you do has a cause and a reaction. And the whole show's about that.
Yeah.
That's the plotting of the series. I would have wanted to have seen what the reactions would have been.
Yeah.
The offshoots of Walt's decisions. And that would have made sense of the show.
Yep. My problem with the ending, I don't like the last episode at all. I think it was a dreadful way to end the show. My problem is that the character of Walt is someone who's so deluded that he thinks he's doing this for his family. If you get him to acknowledge that, it just doesn't... I don't think it works at all. Like, he does that speech where he's like, I'm the one... it was just for me. He does that to Skylar. Is it Skylar or Sylar?
Skylar.
Skylar, I thought so. And
Sylar sounds like a character from Battlestar Galactica.
No, it's the bad guy from Heroes. Is called Sylar.
Oh, played by Spock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's from. But I think the problem is, he admits to Skylar it was all for me, and it's this moment where he's semi-redeemed because he's realised what he's done. I think that was the wrong way to do it. I think he should have died knowing that he was this bad guy. I think he should have died thinking he did well, and the audience would have had the irony that he didn't do anything well. Yeah. I think he should have died in a way that had a negative effect on his family, because ultimately it sets it up that it's like a Shakespearean type drama where he has this fatal flaw that he's so deluded and his ego is what brings him down.
Yeah.
So I think the main show...
It should have really ended with him trying to hatch some kind of master plan, and you think it's going well, and then all of a sudden the whole thing crashes and it turns against him. He gets arrested, and then you see the after effects of what happens.
Redeeming the character to the point where he knows what he's doing is wrong and he dies heroically is a complete... It basically ruins the earlier, however many episodes there are, 63 or something. It completely ruins them, because instead of being this story about this guy who's so deluded he thinks he's doing this and he goes further in, it's about someone who has a last minute redemption and he saves Jesse and stuff. And
True, yeah. You see, I think... it would have hammered home the irony a bit more, like I said, if they showed more of the after effects. I think it would have, Walt redeeming himself would have been counteracted by seeing, well, what happened to Skylar? Skylar's actually having a really shit life now, but she lives in his crappy apartment. Maybe seeing what the effects of what Walt Jr. had. Presumably, that poor kid is emotionally scarred. Like, even what happened to, like, Skylar's sister. You know, Hank was murdered by Walt. Like, how was she doing? How's she doing? If you saw more of the after effects, you would have more seen the irony of it. Walt's redeemed himself, but you would have seen it as being quite a selfish act by the fact that all the other characters are living horrible, miserable lives. You're like, well, you dick. You know,
see, I think that that's a problem of the fact that the show is so narrow in the fact that it's all about Walt. If it was an ensemble drama like The Wire, often would go... Like, the main character in that is called McNulty, but he's in season 4, he's only in 5 episodes. So they could do that because they had this elastic universe which went to different places.
But I don't know the whole structure needs to change. I think audiences would have quite happily accepted like an epilogue like that, just showing scene by scene the different characters.
But I think that would have completely gone against, because it is just about Walt.
Not necessarily, they do cut away to all the different storylines.
But mainly the storylines just revolve around what they come back to for Walt.
Well, like all Jesse's stuff, like Jesse has his own gang. Sure, he's reacting against like Walt, but it's still like his own story, but it shows what like the other characters get up to. So, I don't know.
I think it shows them mainly. I mean, think about like... Skylar had that relationship with Ted. That basically, all of that is built up to the moment where she gives the money away to Ted, dooming Walt again.
But again, like that works within the structure of the show. Reaction leads to another reaction. I think it was a mistake not showing the ultimate reaction of like, because what I was looking forward to most in the series was Walt, the crimes coming out, and then how his family were going to react, and I never got that. For me, that is a crucial scene that they don't show. Reaction. It makes sense of the show's structure. Anything that happens is because of Walt's actions. I think not showing the after effects is a huge mistake. Personally, I think an epilogue showing the different characters would have worked.
I think it wouldn't have worked, but I think they should have shown a way to show what suggest what would have happened within the show without doing that. You get little suggestions.
Not very
that
much.
Really. And I think the main problem with season 5 is that it just treats Jesse like a whipping boy to an extent, which is barely comical.
Because the poor guy's been through enough already.
Well, you see his girlfriend get killed in front of him, and he's a slave in the end. It's horrible.
I also think it's maybe a mistake introducing. She gets a lot of hate on the internet.
Probably just like misogynistic hate. I don't really like her as a character. It's the you know, like the female, the international drug
Lydia.
person. Lydia. Yeah. I do not like Lydia.
Well, I just think she's a very poorly written character.
Like her character trait is that she's very precise.
Yeah.
She likes tea in a certain way.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's the best you could do.
Yeah.
Like this could have been a really interesting character.
Yeah.
But like the writer just, I think it's too late in the game to introduce someone like that, as crucial as that.
Yeah.
I applaud them for trying, but I think the character's too underwritten.
Yeah.
Too late in the game to introduce someone as big as that.
Yeah.
I've got mixed. I like the final season overall, but I see the faults.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the faults.
Well, I think it cheapens the problem. I think with the show is that it's a lot about cliffhangers and building up and stuff. Basically, the entire show is build up, cliffhanger to cliffhanger to cliffhanger. Each season more intense than the last.
Yeah.
But I think with its sort of semi-week ending, it's actually affected the entire show because it's all build up to the end.
Yeah.
I don't think
a huge back. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, Breaking Bad was at its heights when it was like Series 3 for me.
Series 3 is the best, I think.
Height, yeah.
Yep.
Where the characters are all like bored and depressed. I love it. It's great.
Yep.
Four's got some of my favourite episodes in it overall.
I think the last back half of that was amazing.
Great, yeah. It's got some of my favourite episodes. Yep. Which episode is Flying?
That's season 3.
Oh, I love that episode. Yeah, it's an amazing episode.
Yep.
But overall, I'm very, very fond of Breaking Bad. I really love the show.
Yep.
But the first 4 series I love. Season 5 I've got mixed opinions about, but I do love it overall.
I like it up until the end. I used to really, really like it. Ultimately, I think the problem outside of the show is that it got too big.
Yeah.
There was no way to end it, I don't think, on... Because you can... What the last episode does is that it brings back everyone's favourite character. Those 2 people that Jesse hang out with are in it.
Oh, what are they called?
Badger and
Pete.
Skinny Pete and Badger.
Yeah.
They're in it. As the snipers, they get a scene. That's their farewell scene.
Yeah.
And his sister in it gets a scene.
Yeah.
She's the one that they intimidate. And everyone gets a scene to say goodbye to. But I don't think that it really works in this kind of... I think comedy that would work because it's like sweet farewell, but not in like a tough drama.
Yeah.
But no, I just don't think that the last episode works.
Okay.
I think that the best way for them to do it, even though it would have been cheesier or something, would be him in some kind of thinking that... Because I understand why they acknowledged he was bad. Him saying it was because... They needed a happy ending for the show, essentially.
Yeah.
I think the show was too big at that point for it to do something like that. To go out on a depressing note where he thought he was the good guy and learned nothing would have been
yeah.
People would have been outraged, like, oh no, they didn't punish him enough. And
yeah.
If he'd have had any... I think that the problem is that the show is more populist than a lot of other shows that came out.
It became more popularist.
Yes.
The first 3 seasons certainly are kind of... You know, people get turned off by it, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I know people who tried watching Breaking Bad and just...
Yeah.
Apparently just find it a bit too...
Yeah.
Repulsive, almost.
Yeah.
Because you are watching this despicable character doing despicable things.
Yeah.
The first 3 series, you know,
That's why I think it's a mistake to make him acknowledge it.
You're right.
If he acknowledges what he is, it completely ruins that whole dynamic of... The whole show is about the tension between what he's doing and who he thinks he is.
Yeah.
And it builds so brilliantly. Like, that's why I think the best episode in season 5 is the one where he kills Mike.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the one where he goes, say my name.
Yeah.
And he goes, damn right it is. And that's a good moment.
God damn right.
He thinks it's cool, but it's actually pretty pathetic.
It's really pathetic, yeah. Like I said, for me, what works best is just a sad, pathetic human being.
Well, then in the end, they make him a hero.
I agree with you. I think I don't think we should have redeemed him at the end. I like the moment as like a piece of acting.
Yeah.
You know, like I think Bryan Cranston acts it really well.
Yeah.
In terms of like the effect on the show, maybe shouldn't. It's a good moment.
Yeah.
But I think for the show, it's a bit detrimental.
Should have ended with something like, I don't know, he's in his house, everyone's dead. And he's had a really cheesy ending to do. It will be he's in his house, everyone's dead, and he's firing a machine gun and he gets shot in the head and dies. No sort of like big. Yeah, it would be rubbish, but something in that kind of vein. You know how he leaves? He comes back and everyone's dead.
No.
That would have been a harsh way to do it that was consistent with the universe.
Yeah.
That was the way they treated Jesse's...
like them Nazis worked out where Walt's family lived and just gunned them all down.
Yeah.
Including the little baby. God.
Well, I think as well, that would have been an ending that was consistent with the universe they created.
Yeah. Walt's having to live up to his actions.
Yeah, but what should have happened is he comes back, everyone's dead, and then he doesn't blame himself, he just blames them, and then he dies in a suicide mission.
Yeah, he's like, "You goddamn Nazis!"
Yeah. And it would have been incredibly... What they should have done was done that, but they should have, even with the cinematography, treated him like the hero.
Yeah.
And then it would have been like the audience to make the
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a bad man.
Like what series 1, 2, and 3 would have done.
Yeah. They would have treated him as the hero, and it would have obviously been ironic because he isn't the hero.